first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion for that? Councillor Gilroy.
I move that we adopt the agenda as printed or presented.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. We have no scheduled delegation, so I will ask if there's any public delegations.
Well, I'd like to speak regarding this letter here.
Okay.
When I came back and I asked for some reasons why I wanted to see
Ross,
paperwork.
just before you get started, can we, just for the record and the recording, can I get you to state
Ross Berger, Town High Prairie, owner of CCTV Systems. I asked why my taxes were going up, and yet now you're saying that these are the taxes I paid here. I went through with you, Brian, there, that these are not the taxes I paid, that these may only be the property taxes, as you said. But again, I don't know where these numbers came up. I would like to see the paperwork that was submitted by Brian Martinson when he was the development guy, who still is the development guy. And okay, the paperwork that was submitted to reflect the taxes. And I've been asking for this for many years, but nothing seems to be done on this. Okay, and in the meantime, when I was a member at large, Mr. Martinson requested that I have my bank account, my checking information handed over so he could pay me. And I asked him, where's the policy on that? And he held my work, or my pay for, what, 4 years, was it? Yeah, you don't know anything else. So, I ask, again,
Okay.
where is the paperwork that shows that this goes up? Okay, because I can show you paperwork that was put into the paper from Heart River Foundation, driveways being enlarged and no work was being done, but the following taxes that year reflected.
So it would be great if you, like we tried to show you the letters and the amounts there and show that your rates weren't
You
going
just
up.
wrote down a bunch of numbers here.
Okay.
Like, he
If-
hasn't provided nothing.
Can you provide anything that shows that those aren't the numbers? If you could, that would be a great help to saying, okay,
Yeah,
this
well,
is.
I'll wait for yours first, because I had an illegal business on my street, okay, which other people did not like, that was owned by Brian Martinson. He was giving his daughter a business license with many complaints against it, but all seemed to have gone away. But I brought a petition here that most of you guys looked at, and absolutely nothing happened with that bylaw. He was continued to issue himself business permits.
We move on, this is all accusations, so.
Yeah.
It's what?
Well, we have
What?
tried
Pardon
to,
me?
we have tried to go over this several times, so that's why I don't know how to resolve it, Ross. I really don't. I mean, we can get you I think we can get you the paperwork with, I don't know if we keep the actual files for 8 years back on.
Well, you guys delayed it this long. The complaints have been issued, okay? I've come to this council where you guys have said many times, if you need to say something, we will find out. You've looked into it, but
yeah.
yet you come back with just numbers wrote down. No complaints have ever been issued against this guy.
That was
Just illegal business or nothing. Like 3 questions, easy questions.
okay. Go ahead.
It wasn't an illegal business. Mr. Archie Grover was the CAO at the time, and he's the one that issued the development permit. It wasn't me. And my daughter did have a business on there, and she had the development. The permit was advertised in the South Beach News for the time required, and she had the health inspector there to approve her business before she opened, and she bought a business license. So It was a legit business.
Councillor Long.
I appreciate that you're feeling frustrated. I appreciate that you think that somehow there's some sort of conspiracy against you, or I don't know. But we don't have to sit here and listen to you continually publicly stating that this person has created some sort of an opportunity because of his position in this town, that he has somehow unlawfully given a business license to his daughter. And I would caution you, as you slander somebody in public while you're filming, not the best way to go. But we don't have to listen to it. And so your 5 minutes is up, and I call a point of order. Time to...
So Ross, I'll talk with Brian after. We'll see if we can find it. Like, you want the actual copies of the
building permits, the development
Well,
permits.
but what you were talking before about your taxes,
Yes.
that we can probably find. Yes, there's probably permits that have been issued, but I don't know if we can find those, but we can look into those two things, and that's all we can do. I mean, we just can't, we keep going over the same things, and we've tried to solve them with that letter, and that's where we're at. I mean, I want to work with you, and we can try to work a little bit more, but that's all we've got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, any other public delegations? Chris, no? Okay. Fire Chief's report, can I get a motion? Councillor Gilroy.
Well, Debbie's not sitting down yet. I'm going to let Debbie do it. Okay. So, I move the fire chief's December 2019 report for information.
Really hard to tell, it's so small.
All right, so anything you want to bring to our attention in this?
I guess I beg forgiveness for size 8 font. I will actually print it out next time so it's larger to visually see what it looks like. The only thing that, if you got any questions regarding any of the other stuff, the only thing that I want to bring to council's attention that is potentially a contentious issue, and that is that the fireworks in the town limits. There was actually on Facebook, I think it was New Year's Day, and I actually took a picture of it, but I left my phone at home. There was a lady that was advertising on Facebook that the celebration at, which location was it? Anyhow, they were going to be firing off fireworks at midnight, and this was on Facebook, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen it recently advertised, in the paper and whatnot, that fireworks are not permitted in town limits. I know it has been mentioned previous, and I think in discussion with Brian, it has been advertised, but it kind of falls on deaf ears. So if you guys have any thoughts or opinions, I'd appreciate that. But in moving forward, I think I'm going to try, like May and June, to advertise in some way, shape, or form a little bit more openly, social media, that it is against bylaw, and there is a fine that can be associated with it. The fines, though, being said, like I talked to Alan, and says it's pretty difficult to police because you may have a family that has a little package of 4 or 8 fireworks. They go bang, 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 and he's on the other end of town, and by the time they're done, you have no idea where they're at or where they've been fired at. So it is a tough issue to police. The other thing being, you got a family and they're firing off fireworks, and you're the spoiler that comes along and say, oh, by the way, you fired off that for New Year's Day, but now you have a $500 fine. So again, input from council. The other thing is there was a store in town that was selling fireworks. I approached the business owner, and we had some discussion, and kind of went back and forth, but he eventually agreed to remove the fireworks product. We had a discussion on what would be safe and what wouldn't be safe, and he says, well, the outlying areas sell the stuff, why can't I? And it's like, I'm thinking, yeah, well, he's got a good point, but on the same token, what that business owner is doing is setting up the residents for a fine, right? I mean, if they buy it in town and they fired it off in town, then they're ultimately responsible. So I kind of set that on his plate, and he received it, I think, openly, and did take the fireworks product off of the shelf, which is, I guess, great, because didn't have to force me into a sicking bloomer on him. But yeah, so opinions, comments, questions regarding that?
Councillor Gilroy?
Would you suggest maybe that we look back? It must be in a bylaw somewhere. I'm not sure which. But would you suggest that we maybe either designate a specific place that's safe to do them? That invite anyone from the town who has their fireworks wants to do it from in a designated area, so that we're not sort of raining on their parade. And that we could have volunteer people who are trained to watch it and to make sure it's safe. That way they can do the stuff, and at the same time it's a safe thing. Is that what you'd suggest maybe?
Well, I know that I kind of did a little bit of research on some of the communities around, and some do an outright ban, some do it on a permit basis. And I thought about the permit basis, and I'm thinking, okay, so if I go and I write a permit, and it's like I allow somebody to fire in their backyard, that's definitely not a great thing, because I mean, houses are next to one another. You have a firework that goes out of control, fires up into an attic of the neighbor's house, and now you got your neighbor burning down. That's basically why fireworks are banned. But that being said, if you go into a safe space, but a safe space, okay, so if you say you went into St. Andrews football field, or you go into Pratt football field, I mean, that would potentially be a safer place. But then who's now taking the liability of that? And, you'd have to have permission of the Hyper School Division, all kinds of the responsibilities and whatnot. Who does that fall on, I guess, would be a question.
Councillor Rose?
Yeah, I was going to suggest whether or not it would be different with a permit, but I see that the challenge really within town limits is going to be difficult. But do we have the right to limit what a store owner can or cannot sell, regardless of whether or not there's a bylaw to use them in town?
It is in bylaw that says to possess, sell, and discharge.
Because he's right, you can buy them within minutes of this location in any of the convenience stores in the small hamlets. So if you compare what's the rules in the county, what's the bylaw in the county? Because they often go off in the hamlets. Like I see them, and I know that even the permit probably doesn't resolve the issue of training and people being. I mean, it may give them some guidelines, but I've watched, and we've witnessed ambulances coming back out to the lake in order to bring somebody into the hospital because of faulty discharges and problems with fireworks. So I know that there are challenges, but have you compared what their bylaw is?
My understanding is county is based on permit.
You have to have a permit.
You have to have a permit, and there's all kinds of stipulations with that. Alberta, or the fire codes and safety codes actually require that fireworks. They are a controlled product by the Alberta fire codes and safety codes, so they aren't just a kind of a loosey-goosey. The interesting thing is that tannerite doesn't even fall into any of that. So on one token, we're controlling fireworks, but on the same token, like tannerite is just about the same thing, yet isn't near as controlled as what fireworks are.
What is
What is
tannerite?
that? What are you talking about?
Tannerite is like the exploding targets that you can purchase.
keep shooting.
Yeah, but they go with a big bang kind of thing, right? So,
Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
I think we should review that bylaw because I'm all for completely banning it in town limits. It's not so, yes, the fire is an issue, but I've witnessed where little fireworks have gone off and then we've got dogs barking and car alarms going. It's a mess when these fireworks go off. So I'm for the complete ban in the town limits.
it is now. That's what it is now. But again, to police it is the hard thing. Like I said, I'm looking at trying to do a little bit more of a public campaign come May and June, because of Canada Day is usually when our next event will be for fireworks. Outside of that, your suggestion of designating a place, I don't know if council would be willing, liable, or whatever in that regards to write permits based on that. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly more of a fire hazard in
June.
June than there is now. And if you went out to JC Park and lit off some fireworks for New Year's, yeah, not a problem. But doing it in May or June when there's a fire ban on or something, or it's really dry, not a great idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to look at it. But I like the idea, and we have a bylaw committee they can look at. I can't even remember that bylaw, to be honest. I'm not sure what's it under, but that's good. If we have one, we can always review it, and when we do, we can get some input from you and see what can change and have a discussion about it again. Good thing to bring that up. And
a little bit further, I totally agree. I think there was lots of questions at New Year's, people that were asking whether they could let off fireworks or not, and nobody really was super clear with the answers. So having public awareness, and whether it be social media, on your website, maybe do something in the newspaper, and let them know that they're actually a reminder that there is a fireworks ban.
Yeah.
And then people can pass that along to others.
yeah, and we also have the newsletter. So in our December newsletter that goes out to all residents, we could put that in there also.
Well, and I was kind of like reactive rather than being proactive, because in the January newsletter I did put that in there. So it's like, oh well, too little, too late. But
Okay, is there any other questions for the chief, leaving that policy aside?
Just so long as when he puts this stuff in the newsletter
Increase the
I had a question for you, and it was regarding the agreement with breathing apparatus filling. Can you fill me in on that?
okay, so Tolko has higher pressure bottles that they are using our facilities to fill, because our compressor can fill their bottles, but we don't have a proper fill station. When you fill bottles, it's supposed to be in what's called a frag containment. And basically it's just a big heavy metal container that if the tank does blow up when it's being filled, for whatever reason, that is going to be contained in that rather than going all over the place. So in discussion with Tolko, they have the containment at the mill, but they don't have the compressor. So I talked with them and basically said, okay, if you want us to fill your bottles, you need to provide proper safety device to do that with. So they're going to provide that. They've got it at the mill. They're going to be bringing it to the fire hall. They're going to be hooking it up to our compressor system, and we're going to fill the bottles for them. So in doing that, they're going to look after the expense of connecting it to the system. And basically all it is just a small little 1/8 inch stainless steel line, one line that has to connect to that, so it's not a big deal. And in doing so, they are willing to take up half the costs of basically the testing of the air and servicing of the compressor system, which has to happen twice annually. So they've agreed to do that. So we are charging them $40 per $40 or $45 per bottle. So they're paying that, as well as they're going to pitch in and help for the cost of the compressor system. So, and that just going off the top of my head, I believe each service is roughly about $2,000. So, so $4,000 they're going to be splitting it, so that's a $2,000 bonus to reduce costs.
Great, sounds like a win-win.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we're servicing them, helping them out. They're helping us out.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. They got a closer place to get their tanks filled and at probably a lower cost than they would if they took them somewhere else too, overall, even with the...
Cost would probably be the same, but the shipping, they'd have to ship them to Grand Prairie or wherever to get them filled. So, yeah.
You had another question?
So I just wanted to commend our fire department on 2 initiatives. One being the interesting calendar with the firemen and quilts. And no, I think it's great because once again, you're working with the community. I hope you sold out. If not, I'm sure they'll come to your door to get one. The other is, though it's not in the December one, I hear that some of your trained volunteers were going to Australia to help fight the fires. Is that what I heard? Because I heard there were some from our area going to help fight the wildfires.
So 2 things on that. The calendar, it was actually the quilt club that came to us and approached us, and we agreed that we would do it. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but I'm actually pleasantly pleased. And I think most of the calendars that we picked up, I believe we sold pretty much fairly quickly. We talked about having more printed, but we figured that there's other organizations doing stuff, so why be greedy? We set a goal of, it was 150 calendars, and we sold 150 calendars. We were happy, they were happy, people were happy, so yeah, it went well. I was happy with it. And it was a lot of fun actually to do some of the pictures. There was some poking and prodding on some of the pictures for some of our members. So that was kind of cool. The other thing I actually posted for Jason Cottingham. Jason Cottingham is he's our assistant chief. It's to me, I think it's should be a recognized honor to realize that we have a person with those skills and abilities out of entire Canada, chosen from High Prairie to represent a team, task force team, to go and assist Australia is phenomenal. He was kind of a little bit taken back when I threw it on Facebook and it got all the media attention that it did. But I think he deserves it. He's well deserving of the recognition of his skills and abilities, and I'm quite proud to have him in town and on the fire department and as a resource for us. So, yes.
Great. Any other questions before we... Seeing none. Thank you for the report. We have a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? It is carried. Moving on to 5.1, our regular meeting minutes. Councillor Long.
Council approved the minutes from the December 10th, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any errors, omissions in these minutes? Anybody notice anything? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Moving on to new business, 8.1, the High Prairie Interagency Committee request.
Aboriginal interagency.
Sorry.
I believe there's 2 different interagencies in town.
Yes, and it should be the Aboriginal. Yeah, no, I was just looking at our agenda, but you are right. It is the Aboriginal Interagency Committee that we're talking about today. Councillor Rose.
The council appoint one councillor to sit on the High Prairie Aboriginal Interagency Committee.
Okay. Discussion on that one. Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
I'm going to actually direct this to Councillor Gilroy. I know you've attended some of these meetings. However, I read all these notes on this, and the same sentence keeps popping up on every page that the HPAIC promotes and collaborates a holistic approach while engaging in solutions-based dialogue that embraces culture and history. So this sentence appears 3 times in this package. So what do you guys do? Like, what is this agency all about? You're just discussing the problems?
Yes. Except for today's meeting, I probably have missed none in the last year or more. Basically, what happens is there's a wide range of agencies from AHS represented to Lesser Slave Lake. There's a whole list. I think they put the list in here, didn't they? Yeah. They're basically between that and, of course, letting everyone know what's happening with the school board, our High Prairie District School Board, and also letting us know what's happening with Northern Lakes College and the rest. It actually paints a really good picture to how the First Nation and Métis people are developing and trying to deal with their own concerns as well as integrate with the existing things that we have, like, for example, AHS and how they're working together. So it's very much a collaborative effort in how the town and the county can work with them. It's one of the few that I've really seen us do well with. For example, the round dance. That has, you get to see who all is involved with it. It gives us credibility and context with our surrounding neighbors who also would come here for different activities. It gives us the ability to let them know that we actually should be partners with a lot more things. When we're not there or not involved, basically what it says is, it says that one of our largest trading partners, we're not that concerned about them. But in the end, we've got people there from the library board, and quite a few other places. So, for example, they'll say, they'll talk about having offering driver's licenses, and that actually comes back to driver's tests, and that'll come back to anybody who actually is in our community as well, that we can promote it. When they do the powwow, it allows us to promote our town so that we indeed get the powwow here in our facility, and other activities that may not necessarily end up in our town. So there's a whole range of different things we talk about, as well as if there's any cultural things to do with truth and reconciliation, I can bring those back to our committee as opposed to just getting standalone letters. I find it very valuable, and to be perfectly frank, whether this passes or not, I will continue attending it. So, because I find it to be probably one of the most valuable committees I'm on.
But, so what is your action plan like, and how does the community benefit as a whole for having a councillor sit on this committee?
Well, first of all, I was one of the ones who tried to make sure that we did get the powwow back again this year, and that it will be a longer range thing, as well as helping to promote places like the Native Friendship Center, which is downtown, and it helps our downtown area to have more people come downtown for other events. It creates, in some ways, the intention is that it will also help create understanding so that we can change some of the misconceptions on both sides. Both the misconceptions that have been there from on how the town and county think, and how the First Nation people think. So it's really very much understanding each other better and working together as a team, which is something that springboards into other activities and engagements that our town hopes to have with the with our surrounding neighbors.
Councillor Rose?
So I put it forward different than what the administration had requested as their recommendation, based on a couple things. And I have attended as well with Councillor Gilroy. And the first reason is that this is the second or third time that we have been asked to put a committee member on there. One of the times that I was at the meeting, I suggested that, because they said, how come they're having such a hard time building a relationship with the town of High Prairie? Big Lakes is on it. There's a number of community members from AHS, from Mental Health, Friendship Center, I can't remember how many. Yeah, so there are a lot of community groups that are represented there, and High Prairie, the town of High Prairie isn't. A lot of the questions that came up at the meeting had to do with the powwow and the use of facilities, and it was great that Brian and I were there to be able to answer some of the questions. But really, otherwise, we were there of our own free volition kind of thing. There was not a representation. I said, I think we had a letter originally that said maybe there just wasn't enough information, and maybe you guys, if you provide us more background information in terms of reference, and that our council really is trying to be diligent financially and not just send people to every meeting out there, but we have, giving us an opportunity to see what your group offers and seeing where we actually do fit in. Although I think I've been to 2 meetings, so I don't have as much of a feel as Councillor Gilroy does as to all they do. I certainly left that meeting thinking that it would be a place that we belong. It's a table that we should actually be sitting at. And one of the reasons is we're trying to build relationships with the Indigenous populations around us. It is so difficult. Like, I've been to meetings outside of the area, conferences, and you talk to other communities about how they build relationships in their area with their communities and with their First Nation communities. We are the only ones that have so many. So we have 8 First Nations, 3 Métis settlements, and it's very difficult to build relationships with each one. This is the Aboriginal Interagency that represents everybody, right? So they're represented there by the Friendship Center, and any of their other First Nation groups can come for whatever reason that they're presenting. So us being at that table is probably an easier table to build that relationship from than trying to create another group. We did try to create a regional collaboration group before, where we were inviting First Nations and Métis and community groups. This kind of exists here, although it's really just information sharing. There's a lot of it that there's value in us being at the table for, I think.
I can just say one more thing. Okay. This is actually more than just High Prairie. The lady who is the chair, Wendy Goulet, I receive emails that span our entire northern zone. Things such as how they're working with child mental health. There's a seminar coming up about that. Other grants available to them. And at the same time, I find out more about, to be honest, what's happening with our school division there than I do anywhere else, because they do have representatives and they tell us what's happening in there. And they actually ask, though they know I can't say officially on anything, they actually ask, what does the town think about things? And that, to me, that's important.
And he's going anyway.
I know, but my question hasn't, maybe I didn't present my question well enough. So we have FCSS, and we provide busing, seniors busing, income tax, stuff like that. We have a broadband committee where we're trying to bring in broadband. We have an action plan. So this committee, what is their action? What is it? Are you just discussing stuff, or what is your action? What are you bringing to the community with this committee?
No, I wasn't. Councillor Long, yeah, he hasn't talked yet or spoke yet. That's good English, eh?
So, as we've already stated, the First Nations and Métis organizations and communities around our area represent 70% of all Métis people in Alberta live in this area. We have 35% of all Indigenous people in Alberta live in this area. They are our neighbors, they're our friends, our family, and they have asked us 3 times to be a part of this. When we, as a society, go to them and ask them to be a part of, there's a lot of questions. What ifs? What's the motive? What's our intention? Their intention is to have us come and learn and be a part of the process. It's their process. And so it may be loosey-goosey, and it may not be well structured or structured the way we like it. Whatever the case may be, it's their organization, and they've asked us several times to be a part of it. That being said, and recognizing both the cultural and the economic viability that they give to our community, I think it's prudent for us to attend, and they'll let us know what the direction is, and we have to follow, and we should follow. That's all I got to say.
Okay, I think there is a lot of good that this committee does. The only, and it does do all what you guys have already mentioned, so I don't need to sort of rehash those. The only, I guess, reservation I have is that we have a High Prairie Interagency Committee, and we don't sit on that, so are we saying, okay, we sit on one, do we have to do the other one? Is it fair, right? Is it fair to do one organization and not the other one? That would be, my only hesitation. I think this is a great organization, and they do some good things, and it wouldn't hurt for us to be on there, but it might be a duplication. But that would, maybe somebody can say why that wouldn't work.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it does, that's a bit of a challenge. It's like, where do you say no? First of all, you look at who wants you, like where you're asked, because not all agencies or committees are asking us to sit on them, right? So that's one factor to consider with whether have we been invited to the other one? Is that a place that we belong? The other thing is we looked at and we battled back and forth with the Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years as to whether we should sit on the Chamber of Commerce. When we came to council, our council looked at the list that had been revamped by Municipal Affairs, and I think Chamber of Commerce was off it. We had to consider putting it back on. We looked at what other communities do, and we decided to put it on a trial and see whether or not there was value, see what kind of value being part of that committee, whether the town added value, whether it added value to the town. We can look at the same thing, and we can do a one-year trial with, if we feel that there's enough interest that we would like to pursue it, then we would actually get reports. Our council would then be much more aware of what's happening at this organization, and we can make the decision in 12 months to maintain on the committee, to stay on the committee, and going forward with any committees that come forward to us if we feel like there's value. I mean, if we take them on a temporary basis, we're not committing the town forever to be sitting on a committee.
Councillor Long?
So if we take it on to a trial, then we should have the decision to stay on it when we talk about the organizational structure and our org chart. So that's what, October? So if we went from now till October, not a full year, but at least give it to that time so that we can add it to the structure if we want to, if we think there's value to it. Does that make sense?
Just before we leave, I know we haven't heard from Councillor Danaka, and we haven't heard from our CAO on your recommendation and why, but so we can get maybe those two, and then we can go from there.
Well, pretty much everybody has said, how they feel. I guess it's not a concern per se, but as Councillor Rose has mentioned, they've asked us to have a representative on this committee, and I think their ask, obviously they see value in having a representative of the town or for the town on this committee based on what it is that they're attempting to accomplish. And personally, I think there is value in being on this committee, as again, Councilor Rose has mentioned. You know, where we talk constantly, and it comes up quite regularly, where we're trying to build bridges and build, you know, close gaps between not so much us and them, but this allows us, I think, or gives us a chance to at least start and be part of their process in how they, you know, want to get to their next step. And I have no problem having a member sit on this committee.
Okay, thank you.
You want to know why I?
Yeah, absolutely.
My reason for the motion was that if you look back a few years ago when municipal affairs were here, and they kind of slapped council at that time about the number of committees and that they were sitting on. So that was one of my reasonings to receive it for information. Another one is that the CRC has also asked council to go in there. So if you go back and start, you know, somebody sees a value, you're going to be up to the numbers again, and you're going to be going back against what municipal affairs had recommended a number of years ago. So just a caution, council, that, and again, you point somebody to this, and then all of a sudden it's another $800-900 for attending meetings and forward. So it'll be reflected in the budget also. So that was my reasoning.
Okay, I think we've all had a chance to speak, so we'll go on. Well, we had the motion to adopt someone. We had a suggestion of maybe doing a trial or till the first, till our next organizational meeting. I don't know, do you want to adjust your motion? Or, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'll adjust the motion to reflect to a trial basis till our organizational meeting, and then we can review and make a decision at that point in time.
If council so does, they'll have to approve the terms of reference, so that the member can sit on there. So
right afterwards, you want to
you can do a second motion right after if he does go forward.
Okay, so we have a motion, and I'm going to paraphrase just is to appoint someone to sit on the High Prairie Aboriginal Interagency Committee for a term of up to our next organizational meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. And we need another motion.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the High Prairie Aboriginal Interagency Committee terms of reference as presented in our agenda package.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, moving on to item 8.2, the Community Peace Officer Agreement.
I'll grab it.
Councillor Stenhouse.
The council received CAO Adele Parker's request for an additional 3-year agreement with possibility of a year extension for information.
Okay. Start us off. Absolutely.
First of all and foremost is the service agreement is for $1,280 per month. So we sign into a contract, which, as we know, everything's going up every year. So these guys are going to get locked into a contract at $1,280 for the next 4 years. Yet prices of everything go up. I would only do it year by year. As I say, price of everything goes up. So locking it in for 4 years at that price is not fair to us. And then, as the letter states, you got 4 communities here. You have the village of Donley, the town of McLennan, Falher, and the village of Jerville. Like, I know it's a nice letter and it says that this is a valuable service. So, if it's so valuable to 4 towns in another county, why are they not starting their own? With the increase of our crime rate, and now that we're going to have to pay for policing, and now they want to add another town to this agreement to go and cover those towns when we have our own issues going on in our own town. And I think I'll leave it. I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Go ahead.
To answer Councillor Stenhouse's questions, they cannot get a peace officer's contract to hire peace officers. They have to contract, and if they don't contract with us, they would try to contract with the town of Peace River. They can't get that service.
Why?
I don't know why Alan said that they weren't eligible or something. And the fees were negotiable in the contract, and they were reviewed every year, so that was just what we're paying. They were paying for us, their services now. So, and that number there right now is only with 3 communities. Drewville's not part of it, but they're going to add Drewville in.
So will the fee go up?
No, they're gonna keep the same number of hours, but alter the hours for each community.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
So that's going to be more mileage, more wear and tear on the vehicle, more hours out of town.
No more.
The price
So when you're trying to
doesn't
extend the contract,
go up.
we don't have the details of the contract, then maybe it'd be easier if you tell us all of what we're doing right now, like as far as the amount of time we're spending in
They're splitting their time like an 8-hour shift between the 4 communities.
1 8 hours.
So they're basically spending, a couple hours in each one, or an hour and a half, because they're allowing for travel time too.
Right, but your farthest community so far is Falher, and Jerville's another, 16 kilometers, so we're adding another 16 kilometers both ways, more wear and tear on our vehicles for the same price.
Yeah, it would be some more kilometers, and I know we based the price, it was cost recovery, and I agree with you to lock in without having a cost of living increase built into the contract. That's what I'd want to see also, to say that this will go up by 2% a year, or it'll be linked to whatever the...
Well, whatever the gas price is and whatever the insurance is and everything else.
Well, like cost of living allowance increase, because that usually what happens is, you got more gas, more stuff. So yeah, I think that should be built in rather than locking it in. But it isn't going to be additional time for them. Instead of taking the 8 hours and dividing it by 3 communities, it's 8 hours and dividing it by 4. So they're spending the same amount of time. They're just spending less time in the communities than they would have with the 3. Councillor Daneka.
I've never been in favor of this contract. I think we brought the bylaw or way back the council at the time brought the bylaw people into our town to deal with the issues that we have, because they weren't being done by the RCMP, because they were busy doing other things, where some of the things that were going on in the town at the time and are going on now have kind of personally, I don't think they're being addressed. The bylaw people are not doing what they're hired to do, as far as I'm concerned. They were hired and started to enforce our bylaws in this town. And I don't think they should be going out of town. We have issues in this town that need to be dealt with. That was the initial reason why the bylaw services were implemented, and as I've said before, I've never been in favor of them going out of town, and I don't think they should. We have issues that need to be dealt with, and I understand somebody will bring up, well, they're, you know, like if we work together, they'll work with us. Sometimes you have to be greedy. Sometimes you have to be possessive. Sometimes you have to say, what's the benefit for us? The benefit for us and our citizens is to have those bylaw people in this town. And I'm sure everybody has heard the complaints that have go, you know, whether they're true or not, about what's being enforced, what's not being enforced, who's doing what, where the bylaw people when you need them. They need to be in town, plain and simple.
Go ahead.
So are you saying basically that you would like to see our bylaw officers be strictly bylaw and not do any traffic violations or traffic? Because that seems to be the brunt of the time. So between traffic I guess violations and then
The problem with bylaw and a bylaw, my understanding, and I could be wrong, my understanding is a bylaw officer is a peace officer. They're sort of the same thing. There's just a terminology issue. But either way, I want them here. I don't want them out there. I don't want them going, yes, they can do the traffic here, whatever they're doing now, I want them here doing it, not doing it out of town. Even though there's a monetary value to us getting that, but another thing we have to look at coming down from the government is the cost of policing, the loss of the MSI. We've got other things that are, you know, that we're going to have to seriously look at. I want those people here.
I think this went around full circle last time too, when this got brought to the council table, and it sort of boiled down to probably the fact that they do struggle to have their own contract, which I mean, like I say, I'm not certain why, and I think we sort of decided on it more or less as a good neighbor policy, more than it was a. We probably never determined that we could really lose the amount of time from the area. I think that the little bit of financial gain for the municipality was one of the things that we considered, and the fact that it was really just a way for them to get some peace officer services in their communities, right?
Councillor Gilroy.
I'm kind of curious that if, and I'm not saying I'm fully in favor of this, but if we keep them in our area, how does that change the amount? How does that save us any money? Because it sounded a little bit like we were talking about saving some money by keeping them here with all our extra costs, and we'd still be paying the same amount unless you're looking at keeping them here and then possibly cutting back to 1 or 1.5 instead of 2. That's the only place I would see savings. Because what I was hearing here, and maybe I heard it wrong, was that I heard all these talk about MSI being cut back and having to pay for police and stuff like that. How does that change how much we pay our peace officers in the end if we keep them here? I'm just trying to fit the finances part of this.
The financial part and how the town saves money is we would get at $1,200 or $1,300 a month, whatever rate it is. That's, you multiply that by 12, we'd make, what's that, $15,000 that comes into the town, which then goes to help subsidize their wages. If we don't have that, it's going to be an extra cost on our ratepayers, that extra $15,000. We also have an agreement with the county, and I'm not sure of the amount of that one. I can't remember offhand, but that's another amount that helps helps to cover off some of the costs that we have within that department.
The point I was making was, regardless of whether we accept this or not and keep them here, the cost is still the same in a sense. We're still paying them a certain salary. That's why I couldn't see any savings if we neglect. Say we don't go with this. I don't see where we make any savings. No, but that's what I was questioning, because that's what I was hearing from there.
It's an additional cost if we don't run it. To keep the same service, it would cost us more. Any other discussions on this one?
Can we just ask this, what the CIO feels like we should be doing? I mean, we don't have the peace officers here to talk to about, I mean, I know that Councillor Dinaker feels strongly about not having enough presence in the community. And I mean, I know based on seeing comments on social media and just listening generally in the public, you do hear concerns, but would that alleviate it if we had them here 8 hours more? Like, I don't know if that will make the difference or not, so I'm just kind of curious what the feedback would be.
I see it as a good, neighbor relationship with these other four communities. You talk to the mayors and the councillors not at AUMA, and they all will tell you the benefit that they have of having Alan and Erica there, especially for the bylaw stuff. So I put it in here to extend it she asked for 5 years, because Adele is leaving the town of Falera at the end of 2020. So I think basically she wanted to make sure that something was in place before she did leave. So, and again, if council severs this ties, then I think you would have to sever the ties with the county also, because you can't basically be picking one and not the other, because we've been providing probably service to Falera for longer than the county.
Except that the county is more directly related to our proximity, as far as, and might be easier for them to. But.
Yeah. Councillor Long.
So the issue of MSI grants and downloading of policing to communities under 5,000, that's the provincial government that we elected in. They are doing that to us, and I am not going to get greedy just because our provincial government fails to see the pain that they're causing us. And now is the time to help our other communities that don't have any policing, to give them a couple of hours for one day where their communities have a presence of a peace officer and gives them some peace of mind in their community. It's not about a money-making venture, and it's not costing us a whole pile, but it is offering Falera and Donnelly and those communities some peace of mind and some safety and security that they otherwise would not have. And we have to let our provincial government know that the downloading responsibilities onto the communities, yes, they had to make cuts, and yes, we were foolish if we voted for them thinking that there wasn't going to be cuts. But they have not taken into consideration rural Alberta and what it is to them. And they voted them in, and they can vote them back out again. But this is year one, and already we're seeing uncertainty and pain, and now our communities are starting to fight against each other. Who's going to get those services? And we can't allow ourselves to go down that path. We're better than that. We're better than Jason Kenney. We're better than that. And so we're there to help our communities. We're there to help our neighbors, and let the provincial do what they got to do.
Councillor Gilroy?
I don't remember hearing anything about how the extra wear and tear on the bodies as well. is going to affect our peace officers? Because that's extra driving and not spending as much time on different things. Have they said anything about it? Because I'm thinking that maybe we need to. I don't like the 5-year for one thing, because I'm not sure how much extra wear and tear it'll also be on our peace officers to continue, go further and further and stuff like that. But I can see where the downloading has affected where they need to make some cost cuts, and I'm glad they're doing there because we do the same thing in their boat. So I just want to know, have you talked to both our peace officers, and what is their opinion on it before I vote?
I did discuss it with both of them, and they both believe that it is a good service to be providing.
And it won't wear them out more than they already are?
They're just scheduling it within their shifts, and when it comes time to do their 8-hour shift, one of them will go.
Okay, we've gone around on it a lot. I mean, for me, I don't know if I've really spoke other than answered questions. I like the idea, and being the good neighbor, but I also think it's good for us in that it does help lower the cost to our ratepayers. If we cut this one and another agreement, we are going to be increasing the costs to our ratepayers unless we make some changes to that department. And right now, I think it's working. That's just my opinion on it. All right, any other things before we wrap up and vote? We have a motion to receive this for information. All of those in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry, were you in? Okay, sorry, okay. And all of those opposed? Okay, so that motion is defeated. Councillor Long?
That council approve a 3-year peace officer agreement with an option of an additional year extension for Donnelly, McLennan, Falher, and Girouville. I would like to add in that there should be a COLA in there.
I was just going to make that suggestion.
How do you want to word that? Because I know that's...
With appropriate increases?
Their current contract is good till December 31st of this year, 2020. So when it comes time to reflect the COLA and the increases, I'll bring that back to council for council approval before we sign it.
Will you be here?
Yes, I will be.
Okay.
I'll do it before.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we could do something that just says it's going to go up by 2% or 3%, whatever, whatever is the thing. Yeah, it's got to be deemed that way.
We need a car sooner.
So, Michael, are you putting a COLA on the end of this motion?
Yes.
Or another appropriate increases?
Okay, so Nancy, what have you got for a motion there? Have you got anything concrete?
No.
Okay, so we've got the first part of it,
Yeah.
and then Michael, you would want to add with yearly increases stated in the agreement?
Okay.
Yearly cost of living increase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cost. Sure, we can't have cost and maintenance, because that's gonna, short the life of our vehicles too.
Yeah, I think we also have in there, if it changes, we can increase our rates. But that was built into the original price, the travel and the mileage. Okay, we've hammered this one around, so all those in favor? Opposed? Yeah, just what I figured. No surprise after that, yeah. Yeah. Okay, another interesting one, I'm sure we'll have some discussion on, school zone time change. Councillor Rose.
The council direct administration to create a draft bylaw changing the school zone times from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and bring it back for council approval.
All right, anybody want to start? Councillor Stenhouse and then Councillor Rose.
Okay, I would like to see it till 4:30. That seems to be the standard time is 4:30, and I'm in favor of it. However, that we don't start this till, this is the wrong time of the year to do this, that it be started at the beginning of next year.
Beginning of the school year?
Right. That we don't change this mid-year. Other than that, I'm in full support of that. That seems to be the going thing, and to get rid of the confusion.
Okay, Councillor Rose?
And I can agree with basically all that. I don't, I'm not attached terribly to from 4:30 till 5 o'clock, but I do think that it is very confusing for people. As people move into the area, we hear that an awful lot, that that's not the way it was in their community. They don't understand how come, they don't know when to slow down. So I think that that consistency would probably be better received than we realize. I think a lot of people now think it is anyway, so they're slowing down, and then there's people behind them that are mad because they know that it's not, right? So so I mean, I could amend it to 4:30.
Okay. Other, go ahead.
I just want to inform council that Peace Officer Bloom said that if council did approve this, that the signs on the numbered highways would be changed at the cost to the government, and the ones on the side streets leading up to the school zones and that would have to be changed by the municipality. So there will be some costs. We don't know that what they are yet, but there will be some cost to the town. So.
Yeah. I had a question. Are we allowed to change the speeds without Alberta Transportation approval on the primary highway? Or even on the secondary one going through? I wasn't sure if we can.
I think they have to still.
They have to approve it. So
Yes.
if they decide
Yes.
that they don't want to change it on the main highway, they don't have to.
No.
For St. Andrews area, right?
I'm thinking of St. Andrews more than
the
the
other
Harper Element. Well, I know, that's why I'm saying, they both are, but I could see more of an issue from their perspective on Highway 2 versus the one going by now. Yeah. Just my question on it, so. Councillor Stenhouse?
Another question. Because this seems to be this has been going on for a few years in other communities, is there any chance the government might go province-wide with these school zones?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Councillor Long?
So we're treating it more like a playground zone. And so what I would like to see is that that these times of 8 to 4:30, 8 to 5, whatever it may be, are 7 days a week. And we're in the town of High Prairie. It's 2 minutes from one end to the other, anywhere you go. So by reducing the speed limits in a playground zone area where every school has a playground and kids use them all the time, we're potentially saving a child's life by reducing the speed limits, and that's why it's been done. And so if we're going to do that, then it should be a 7-day week.
But if you do 7 day a week, what are you gonna do July, August?
7 days a week, 365 days of the year. What is wrong with that?
No, I'm against that.
Why?
Okay,
Why?
hold on, wait, let's go to the.
Through the
normal
chair,
minute.
why?
Yeah.
You have a
Yeah.
look at all the speed zones coming into this town, we're going 100, 80, 60, 50.
That's how it
30.
goes. Yeah. For the 200 meters that they have to travel.
Okay, well, we can have debate on that too, but we'll just do it, yeah. Any other discussions on that one? I personally, like addressing that, I'm not in favor of 7 days a week either. I prefer, when school is in, so that there's nothing during the summer. We haven't had too many incidents there. It's all chained off and fenced, and there's lights there. So I think we don't have major problems there with that, but that's my opinion only, and I think that we could keep it just while school is in. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with lowering it, because I always go, well, what time is it? Do I have to slow down? And I usually slow down anyways and trying to figure out what is the hours. Is it does it stop at 10 o'clock or 10:30? I can't remember. And it starts at 11 or 11:30. I always have those issues, so. But any other discussion on this one? Oh, sorry, Councillor Gilroy.
Well, I guess I think it's most probably during the school year, only because the purpose of the speed zones are for children and the buses to be able to get in and out safely, and parents to pick up their children safely. During the summer, there's no, I don't want to say there's no real purpose for them to be at the school, but it's not the same amount of traffic. It's not the same numbers either, and it's not the same timing. So, I mean, if the council truly believes that this will make our town safer, then it's something we should do. So, but obviously, what do we do if, say, for example, Ministry of Transportation says we're not going to change the times on Highway 2, and we have a bylaw in place? What are we willing to do about that?
It's not a matter of changing the speed, it's the times that are going to be the only thing, yeah. The Traffic Safety Coalition must feel pretty strong that they can get them changed, or they wouldn't have brought this forward. And there are RCMP members, Lakeshore Police on that committee, so.
Well, I'm going to go with Councillor Stenhouse, and then we'll go with the chief. I'll have something to add in.
Just one last comment. I believe that this is to get rid of confusion as to the times. So by throwing in 7 days a week all year round, that's just going to add more confusion. So by sticking to this, when school is in, these are the hours. And kids who go to school know these hours. It's for the other drivers, people who don't have parents going to school, that have the trouble with the timing and the school zones. I think it's more to get rid of all that confusion.
Just so you know, I sit on the Traffic Coalition, and Alberta Transportation there is in favor of this that they put forward, and RCMP, basically the whole Traffic Coalition was in favor of this. So just point of information.
Oh, so transportation is...
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so we had a motion. There was some talk about the hour. I don't know if anybody's living or dying on it, but yeah. So.
Well, that half an hour means a lot.
No, but school gets out at 3:30.
Right. And the school zone is already at till 4:30.
Right.
So we got half the population already trained to 4:30.
Okay, well, we had the motion by Councillor Rose. It's up to her whether or not she would like to amend it or whether she wants to stay with 5 o'clock. It's up to her.
Does anybody know, and if Trevor, if you're on the Safety Coalition, or if you sit there, because the letter says is proposing 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. So the actual Traffic Safety Coalition is asking for it to be till 5.
You have a comment on that?
Well, from my recollection of sitting in the meeting, they pretty much discussed the 4:30, but it was brought up that it might be easier for people to think of 5 o'clock, so that's why it was pushed to 5 o'clock. So, information.
Still a bit confusing for people if some places are 5 and some places are 5:30, or 4:30, but it does address most of the confusion and having that full day as time zone. But anybody else have a thought on it? I mean, we hear Councillor Stenhouse doesn't like the idea of.
I would prefer 4:30 also, but I could live with 5.
I'll amend it to 4:30.
Okay, so we have the motion to create the bylaw from 8 till 4:30. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Now, we did have, Brian, the recommendation to look at, but by the time this is drafted and sent to transportation for approval, we'll be looking at something here.
I get a note starting September 1st.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah, okay.
By the time signage and everything's done.
Yeah, it'll be, and then given time to advertise and promote it, it should be done later. Okay, so we're 8:15. I guess we got time for one more, and then we'll take our break. Because I can see some antsy people. No. It is, broadband is the next one. Yeah, we'll go over this one and take our break. So let's start with broadband. Can we get a motion on this one? Councillor Gilroy.
The council approved the construction of broadband for the town of High Prairie to commence in 2021.
I might add a little bit to this one, just a bit of explanation for some of you, is that I'll go back one step, is that it's just the county, and we had the broadband meeting met, and there was some talk from the county that this is trying to push it ahead for this spring. Was a little fast to get everything done and in place. And the county is concerned about funding and dollars, because there is no dollars now. And the costs from their side of things is quite high. Their costs, and they don't have the money to do it. So they would like to sort of back up one step, give them some more time to plan for it, and more time for the organization to, for example, create the organization that's going to manage the broadband project, the regional authority that's going to manage that, and get all of those things in place. So that was the concern. So we had said that we wanted to get started this year. It's another thing to say, well, maybe we need to slow this down a little bit more. So that was where we were at with that committee, and so we need to be able to say that we're going to slow it down. I threw a wrench into some of that.
Where's the butter?
Yeah, into that after, and said, well, maybe I understand why the county doesn't want to go ahead and a full regional authority being developed, but maybe we want to get started and do something in town, because there's still nothing stopping us, and we did budget some money already for that. So maybe we could start off in the town and still do our, not do the whole downtown core, but maybe we do a part of it, or maybe we just hook up the town office and make sure that we have connections.
All our demolition, our demonstration.
Yeah. And what we ended up having a discussion afterwards was having the word was a demonstration project where we might do the town and hook up, maybe we could do something at the arena so people could see it. And when you went in and you hooked up your cell phone, you had to see the splash page for, to sign up for wireless, and say, here's, you have to agree to it, you get advertised, see how good it's working, and we would have a chance to work out the bugs and work all of those things out before we tried to get paying customers in. And what if we had problems? At least if we get, we have to have a backhaul contract in place. We have to have an internet service provider in place. And getting all of those things in place and making sure that it works when we're having paying customers. Maybe we do that demonstration and get part of that stuff done and out of the way earlier. So that was a discussion after we made this motion. It was at our second broadband meeting. But we did say at the first broadband meeting that we would delay it, and then I threw that other idea out there afterwards. So, Councillor Gilroy.
And just for the comfort of the councillors who were not at the meeting, we have asked for a timeline. So hopefully when we get that timeline, we will share it with council, because it's important that our council be all on board on this. And as the mayor said, and I fully agree with them, there are a number of things that we really do need in place. The regional authority, the bylaws for the regional authority, because this isn't just us in the county, this is the bigger project we've been talking about for the last couple of years. And we have to be able to know how to incorporate those other communities in so that the region as a whole succeeds. But yes, I'm very proud of the fact that our leadership is looking at going ahead with this and going to be doing some PR to make sure people know, the business community, everybody else knows exactly what's going to happen in the next little while. So looking forward to all those updates.
And I agree with that, and I think that keeping the momentum going and making sure people are aware that we are, as a municipality, looking seriously at trying to tackle this project and draw attention to broadband in the area, because they're hearing that it's coming, and we have a problem with things coming soon and then people having to wait for a while for them. So I do like the idea of moving it forward, but when we have a motion on the table, so what are you looking at? Like we're trying to stop this. You want to just receive it for information until we get information from Magda that says what a pilot or a demo, like, because we don't have a cost, right?
No, and that's a very good question. When we asked the consultant Magna and to say, okay, what would it cost? Do they make a recommendation that we even do the demonstration project? What would it cost us? The discussion at the meeting was that they would come back and let us know what we could get done for the money that we had already assigned. So, it wouldn't cost us any more. And then we, as a council, can make a decision on whether or not we want to do the demonstration project or not. But I think, and your question, Debbie, is, what do we need to do with this motion? And I think we're talking about the bigger project versus the demonstration project. So we could say, we're holding off on the construction of the big project. We could make a motion later on that says we want to do a demonstration project, and I think they would still be acceptable, but is that, yeah, okay.
And maybe just for clarity for those of you that didn't go to the broadband meetings, this is what came as a recommendation out of the broadband meeting to go back to both the town and the county councils for approval, so it just slowed down the project. So yeah, we could do exactly that. But after talking to their consultants and listening again to the mayor with what about going forward, it would be pretty nice if High Prairie could go forward right away, and we don't have to wait on the county's decision to as to when they're going to go forward. Maybe it would be nice to see that we take the lead on it.
Councillor Stenhouse.
So I'd like to be clear, we're not taking the money we set aside for the project to do a demonstration. Is that correct? Are we spending that money that we put in that pot for broadband on this demonstration, or are we going to need money just for the demonstration?
No, we'd use the money that is already committed to the broadband, because it's still going to help, because we still have to connect this building here. So
really what it would be doing to add to that is, we have to set up a NOC or something in this building with the servers and bring broadband into here, and we'd have to pay to do that anyways. It's using the money to do that to get started.
But that will continue on with the project.
yes.
Yeah, it's really the first step of that project.
Okay, so it's not like
We're not wasting the money. If we don't go ahead, at least we got broadband here. But I think we need to go ahead, but there's other ways that we might want to look at different technologies or something, but having the town connected and having that broadband or the fiber into the building is the best service that you can get, and I think that would be good for the town regardless.
Can I add one thing, or just even ask you now? So if we were to go forward with, and we're digressing a bit from the actual topic, but I mean, it's all part of it. If we were to go forward with a small pilot or a demonstration project, and it didn't go any further, do we still have, doesn't that still give us the ability to enhance wireless services? Right? So whatever we do here, even if it's it doesn't go further than municipal buildings, that will probably enhance wireless capabilities for the rest of the residents, even if we're not going to go everybody fiber to every residence, like if it doesn't get to that affordable point, right? So I think that, you know, to your question, any money that's spent will enhance what we have here in the area.
Going towards the
That's right, yeah.
main goal of your project.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not an extra expense.
Correct, yeah.
We need,
Any other questions, comments on this one? Okay.
okay, so clarify the.
So this motion is to not go forward with the large project at this point.
Yeah. Because we were going to connect all of downtown. Yeah.
But just all it is postponing until 2021. It's not canceling the project.
That's right. Everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed is none. Carried. Let's take our little break so we got time to focus on the other thing.